I want to form a relationship with the customer. So if you don't like me or my style or my beliefs or things like that, then I'm sure there's somebody else that's a perfect fit for you, but it's not me. And I'm not going to necessarily give you the best price because I see value in the things that I do in my time as well, and what I can offer. So.
Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast, where we bring you conversations with the best agents, coaches, and leaders making the difference in Northeast Florida real estate. Today's guest is someone who knows the community inside and out. She's not just a real estate professional. She's a lifelong resident of St. Johns County here in Florida who has dedicated her life to guiding, teaching, and serving others in every season of life. Before stepping into the world of real estate, she spent years in the classroom as a middle school math teacher, blending structure, patience, and care in everything she did. Now she brings that same clarity and compassion to every transaction, making the process feel less like a sale and more like a service. She also is a passionate mentor, coaching young athletes on the volleyball court and leading students of faith through her church. Whether she's empowering buyers and sellers or shaping the next generation, her commitment to excellence never wavers. Focused on faith, family, and your future, please welcome to the show, Jamie McLaughlin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
Yes, welcome. Glad to get you on. We have it scheduled for a month now.
Yes, volleyball season I thought was actually going to be over, and today we've made it in the playoffs.
Oh, good.
And now we have our regional quarterfinal game tonight. I'm like, I told him let's push it over. No, we got a game today, but
well, Murphy's Law.
Yes.
My wife told me yesterday something. She goes, I was hoping to have this a little off this week, and all of a sudden woke up Monday morning and the phone's blowing up.
Yes.
Right? Another listing conversation. Customer. Jamie, give us. I want everyone to know. Because Florida is a very transient state.
Yes.
We have a lot of. We know down south. If you wear a Yankees hat, you're in New York City, because we know a lot of our New Yorker friends, live all over the state of Florida, actually. Yes. I'm from New York. I was born in New York. Oh. But so I could say that. But you moved here at a very young age.
Yep.
Moved into St. Johns County. You've seen it grow. Tell us a little bit about, I know we were talking pre-show with Tom a little bit, when you first came here, what St. Johns County was like, and blend that a little bit into your ability to express that in to your buyers and sellers that are coming from out of state.
Okay. So back in 1992, I lived in Miami, and Hurricane Andrew knocked us out of there.
Yes.
So my parents decided we like Florida, but we have to get out of the hurricane alley. So we moved up to Jacksonville. I was 7 at the time and have been here ever since. I went away to college where I met my husband at FSU, and I said, come on back to Jacksonville if you want to marry me. So I have been here my whole life, basically.
Where's your husband from?
I can remember. He's moved all over. He was in Alabama, and then he was in Washington and Tennessee, and then his family actually lives here now. So all of the family is within 3 to 5 miles of each other, which is awesome. But it has been crazy how much growth there has been. When I started school, there was only Julington Creek Elementary School and Switzerland Point and East High School were the main ones.
Right.
And it's crazy how many schools are everywhere and how fast the growth has happened. That's what Tom and I were talking about earlier. Remember when it was a dirt road down here?
Yeah.
And there was only one store, it was the Food Lion and all of that. So, but it's been helpful to be raised here, to know the ins and outs of the area. There are neighborhoods that have been built, and I'm like, wasn't that kind of a swamp? So I can kind of point people in the right direction as well of what areas fit their specific needs specifically.
Well, I don't think people actually you realize it because you've been here long enough.
Yep.
All of St. Johns County is really, you have to bring in fill. There's very few places that you don't need fill if you're going to build a house or anything, shopping center or whatever. You got to bring in fill because it is a lot of wetland.
Yes,
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
And they're doing a great job doing that, and these neighborhoods are awesome.
Yeah.
But the growth has been crazy, especially COVID on. It has been insane how many new neighborhoods are popping up, and it's almost like you have to go out and drive around every other week just to see, like, whoa, there's 10 new ones. What else is coming on? And they're opening different phases, and there's a ton of options for new construction.
I would imagine your degree was in education?
I actually went to school to be a marketing major.
Oh.
Which is helpful in real estate. And I did an internship, and they actually told me that I was going to market for the Florida Suns, the baseball team.
Yep.
It was the Suns back then.
Yeah.
And they sent me on the side of the road and said, go knock on doors and sell tickets. And I was like, this is not what I went to college for. I thought I was like going to market and design stuff and do all of that. So
you got to pay your dues.
I did not feel safe knocking on doors saying, hi, do you want to buy a $30 Suns ticket? So I told my husband, I've always loved like helping kids and teaching. So I was like, I think I'm going to go back and be a teacher. So I got a job as a math teacher in St. Johns County. Just growing up here, I knew a lot of the previous teachers and the principal. I actually was one of my teachers. So when an opening came, I think it was like 5 days after school started, a teacher had to quit real quick because of family reasons. And they're like, we need somebody desperately. Do you want to come out? I'm like, sure, I've never taught. I don't know, anything about it. So I had
you just went to school for many years, so you've seen it done.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I had 3 years to get like my professional teaching certificate, and during that time I learned like the specific education classes and all that. But I love teaching.
Yeah,
it's so much fun.
Well, that's not unseen right now either, because unfortunately and I'm sure you're seeing it out there, you're feeling it. The cost of living, although teachers want to teach in our schools in St. Johns County, because obviously I live there too, and my kids are St. Johns County students.
Yep.
You really need the spouse who is making an income to be able to afford to live in St. Johns County. And we're not New York City. It's just the median price point of home. With obviously you had taxes, and of course a lot of St. Johns counties in a planned urban development, right? You got HOAs and CDDs and all that kind of stuff, which does drive it. But obviously, since we're on this particular topic, since you started in 21 to today, have you had some situations where insurance has played a factor in, either getting a deal closed or maybe disqualifying someone on a particular home because the insurance is going to be too high? Have you seen that?
Definitely, as well as like the fees. A lot of the CDD fees, like people will come in and say, like, I cannot have $3,300 a month in CDD fees and then HOA on top of that, plus the insurance and flood, and it's like I'm paying over $10,000 just in extra on top of, my monthly mortgage. So there's a lot.
So that's a great hole to go down right now, because I know people who have come in and said, oh, we don't want to live in a CDD, but then they end up buying in a CDD because of the amenities that are there. Correct. And that's the lifestyle. Now, obviously, affordability was in their affordable range to do that, but some of these communities, and obviously, over the last 3 years too, the cost of everything has gone up. So those CDDs, just like a county maintaining the roads, the cost to do a road 5 years ago versus doing it today, that was all driven all these different fees to certain different levels that have cut people off.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I do feel like it's buyer specific. What are your priorities? Do you have kids? Are you going to be at the pool all the time? Let's do the CDD fees where you don't have to maintain your own pool, because that's expensive too, as far as your electricity, if it's heated, and your chemicals and all that. So I think that there's quite a bit who see the value in all the things if they're going to use them, and it hasn't been too. Like Rivertown, for example, families love it. And they're like, I don't care what that costs. I can go to the gym there. I can go to 3 different pools. I feel like I'm at a resort sitting on the river.
Right.
So they can kind of cut out some other things like gym memberships and their own pool.
Yeah.
So it kind of is net neutral there.
Yeah. No, I heard yesterday there's quite a few homes right now. Talk about inventory a little bit. Rivertown had like 140 homes itself in there, and they're still building in there.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. Well, that's the hardest part. The resale, it can't compete with the new construction.
Yeah.
Because they probably bought at a higher price point, and they're offering so many incentives as far as like your rate buy downs and $30,000 in closing costs and things like that like resale.
Yeah. How do you handle a customer because I think this is very important, and I've asked this before, not consistently on every episode, but I think it's important for the agents who are listening. If you missed it in the previous episode, you've got to really, right now, knowing what we know based on these communities where they're still building, you need to drill down with a person. Like, how long do you see yourself here? Are you active duty and you might be here for a year or two and you want to buy a new construction home in a community that's probably going to be building for the next 5 or 6 years?
Right.
Are you digging deep with them to hopefully avoid a possible situation that they might have in a year or two?
Yes,
Yeah.
100%. When we do like our buyer's consultation, I usually ask, like, what are your short-term goals? What are your long-term goals? And for example, I had one who is in the military, and he's like, I'm getting out in 3 years. And in Rivertown, I was like, I don't know that you're going to get your money's worth if you sell in 3 years, because there's still so much growth happening here.
Right.
And he ran the numbers, and we were able to get him such a great rate that he's like, I'm going to keep this forever, even if I don't live here, and rent
Right.
it, because this monthly mortgage is awesome.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, great, as long as you know.
Well, so yeah, he planned it out, and he saw himself, well, if I don't live here, I'll just make an investment property because I got a really low rate, and I can, turn a little bit of cash on it over time. So that's a winner. But I think sometimes agents who are not as, I don't know if they're confident, lack of control over their buyer, but to ask a few extra questions, because when it goes to, hopefully they call you when they want to sell it. Hopefully it's not, hey, and I think you and I could probably rattle off 5 or 6 neighborhoods right now where they're having a huge hard time selling existing homes because of the obviously incentives and the price point of the builders are not rolling in it right now. You might see their number of sales, but it's because they are really running on thin margins. It's the only thing I could see.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree with that. I have just been blessed, to be honest, as far as like buyers and sellers, to only work with people that I know, or referrals, or like word of mouth through friends. So it's almost like I feel more invested because I have a relationship with them.
Right.
I'm like, I want to make sure, like, I want to be your friend forever. So I don't want to be in this situation where in a year you're like, why didn't you say this?
So you can have a
to
little
me?
more frank conversation.
Exactly, yeah. I'm usually coming, I'm like, listen, I'm going to say the hard things. Or like when I'm selling your home, I'm going to give you the hard feedback that might hurt your feelings a little bit, but this is what buyers are going to say, kind of a thing. But I'm saying this lovingly because I want what's best for you,
But it's easy. You're getting a lot of at-bats right now, but talking to the agents who might take a Zillow lead or whatever, you have to, would you agree, it's important to be the professional, and sometimes you got to tell them what they need to hear, not necessarily what they want to hear.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, and then there's a tactful way of doing that.
Right.
But obviously telling them some stories like we get, hey, in the last year we're seeing homes sit. People have to take losses on homes because they got moved out of the country and now they got to sell. So they're like, whatever, we put 20, 30% down. So we're just pay off the mortgage. And they're eating that $50, $60, $100,000. Maybe not, hopefully not that much, but they're eating some of that just to get rid of the house and get that off their report.
We had one in my neighborhood. It just closed 2 days ago, and they bought it in January for $750, and it sold 2 days ago for $640.
Oh, my
heart breaks for those people. Why'd they have to leave so soon? I have no idea the situation, but I'm like, gosh, that's not a good investment.
Yeah, exactly. So, so the point I think we want to get across is, agents, you're learning this. I think the average agent's probably got less than 5 years in the business right now that's out there actively. I mean, obviously we've got some senior agents, but average time in. And so you're seeing this right now. Take note, and so you can better educate your buyers and strategically, put them in the right area. If they have a long-term goal, not really a big deal.
Well, and I think it's easier to have the hard conversations up front so they know versus being halfway into it and then be like, wait, I didn't even think about that. Especially like with listings, I usually am like, it's going to take a little bit of time versus saying, we're going to sell this next week. And then when it doesn't, it's a harder conversation to have and go back. Okay, well, you said it was going to be faster. If I set your expectations properly from the beginning, it's a lot easier to
100%. and it goes. Let's drill down on it. I always like to get everyone's little ideology on it because every transaction's different. You've been in the business about a little over 4 years, if I remember correctly from your LinkedIn. And if you don't have your LinkedIn up to speed and if you want help, I will help you with that. Give me a call, agents that are listening. If you go to ChatGPT and say, hey, I need to create a LinkedIn account, or I have a LinkedIn account, I need to make it better, it'll walk you through it and give you a bio and everything. Yours is decent, but you'd be amazed how many agents that are out there right now. It's still talking about their old brokerage, and now they're at a different brokerage and they haven't updated it.
Yeah.
And I believe LinkedIn is a very simple. You want to set it, don't forget it, but you can set it and they don't have to do much often to it. But I think posting on LinkedIn is important. We were talking about blogging earlier. Yeah. You want to start blogging, there's a little section under your bio for a newsletter. I use mine all the time. Yeah. You'll be on there because we'll talk about the show and I'll create a blog and stick on there about how great Jamie is in St. Johns County. But you can blog on there and people are going to see people will see those articles. And it does give you, but anyway, get off my LinkedIn tangent there. I think that's one of the biggest, simplest things that every agent needs to do, because where you're getting referred, but you might be referred to someone who you actually don't know, right? Your friend refers you. Doesn't mean they're not going on to LinkedIn, YouTube, whatever, and searching who Jamie is. Who did my friend just refer me to?
Yes,
right.
100%.
And having that backed up. Yeah. All right, I got off on a slight tangent. Foreshadowing.
Okay.
Setting expectations.
Yes.
You're going in this buyer consultation, and in this case, you said you referred a lot. So a lot of times there's already a common ground, right? You know this particular person, and you treaded over some of the same turf. What is your ideology when you go in there? So this is called a buyer's consultation. What are some of the things that you're going to that you really focus on making sure you foreshadow, you set the expectations on up front in that first 20, 30 minutes that you might be talking to them?
I would say I'm trying to get a good feel of exactly what they're looking for, first of all. Typically, if it's a couple, they're looking for different things. So trying to find like the happy medium, setting the expectations that we have like a dream list, and then we might need to come back to reality based off of what your price point is. I think it's super important for them to talk to a lender first, because if we are not even in the right ballpark price point when they do their monthly numbers, like we're wasting our time looking at these fancy houses when we can only afford, something in this price point. So always, I'm like, have you spoken with a lender? And if you have not, you need to do that first to know exactly what budget we should be shopping in.
I find a lot of agents are kind of shy from asking just some of the basic stuff that a lender's always going to ask. Yeah. Obviously, I've been doing it 20 years, and how much money are you going to put down?
Yeah.
Where's that money coming from? Because obviously that might expose that they're selling another house, right?
Right.
But to know some of those basic parameters in conversation, so you aren't caught off guard when they're done talking to the lender, and the lender calls you back and says, well, we need to find a house where the seller's going to pay all the closing costs because they don't have any money.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I feel like that's super important. And I usually go in ahead of time, like, what's most important? Oh, it's your monthly? Okay. Have you run something lately to see at 6 or 6.5% what you can afford with that down payment? Because in your mind, you might think $500,000 and it's really $350,000.
Right.
By the time.
Yeah, I really, that's another thing I think to educate those that are out there, not that you haven't been told. It's really the payment that is in there, especially right now.
Yes.
Where, for years there, when I worked for one of the major builders in town, $2,000 payment, taxes, insurance, no big deal. Now we're getting paid, $3,000 payments. Yeah. That's a totally different ball game,
That's being generous.
Yeah.
I feel like we're more in the 3 to 4.
Yeah, well, that's basic. Yeah, we're 3,600 always seems to stick. Yeah. And where does that play in their grand scheme of things? They may actually be, because we can approve them, many people, for more than what actually is comfortable for them. We don't, because you and I don't know how often they go out to dinner. Well, I eventually find out what their car payments are. The other things they like to do, we live in Florida. they go. How many times they going over to Disney World? We know people practicing like they go over there every month, right?
Yes, for sure. I've actually had 2 transactions in this past few months that were my students, which I love so much. I taught them, and I'm like, wait, how
that's
are
cool.
you old enough to be buying a house? Like, just got married, having a baby, ready to buy their first home. And we were doing the numbers and stuff, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how do you kids afford these things? This is insane how high it is now.
It's stretching. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
And obviously, they say we're at record credit card debt. I always remember back in 2005 and 6 and 7, I was working at Quicken Loans at the time, so I was talking to people all over the country. And we were refinancing them and taking 50, 60 grand cash out to consolidate debt. Now, it was saving hugely on a monthly basis, but no faster than were they paying it off. They were right back out there because they overbought, they overstretched themselves. They had to buy that Escalade versus just buying a RAV4 or something like that, type of thing, and the beat the Joneses scenario there. So it's
tough.
Yeah.
For sure.
So back to so we're in that buyer's consultation. We're setting the expectations. So we kind of got off on a slight tangent. We're asking about, hey, ask them how much are you looking to put down, because this helps you strategize the offer too.
Yes.
And in today, well, actually, I don't even think it's any different. I mean, there's no doubt over the years how often I've gotten calls and had to then call the agent, go back and say, okay, they don't have any money, or they only have $10,000 to their name. We need to get the seller to, if they could pay all the costs, so they're not going in there and writing a $10,000 check and they have nothing in their bank account when they move in that house.
Right. Yeah.
So these type of conversations. But again, back to setting the expectations of what to expect as far as from you, but what to expect in a real estate transaction.
Oh, well, that's where I feel like the teaching comes in. I have my whole booklet, and I'm like, okay, here's how the whole transaction process goes. First, we do this, and then there's these 3 contingency windows. And so I like to spend a solid 2 hours in person, going through exactly what all it's going to entail. And then as we start looking, I can also say, okay, and I forgot to tell you this, because there's so much, and every transaction is different based off of if you go the new construction route or if you do the resale, and also how to structure offers. Like, I just had a FHA and they only had the 3.5% down. I'm like, well, then we need to find somebody who's going to be willing to pay the closing costs, and offer a concession for that. So there's a lot of different stuff that really, I think it's just like the constant communication, and as things arise, talking about and just setting the expectations and teaching them really how it all goes.
What have you found? Because like you said, every transaction is different, so you're learning the different curveballs of every possible transaction you can have. Can you think of a situation where what you've had that really, rocked your transaction? Maybe not necessarily caused it to blow up, but maybe it did. And obviously now you're going back and now you're telling customers, hey, I had a customer 2 years ago and this is what happened, so I would suggest we do this. Have you had something like that?
I have actually had 2 recently that were more of a concern of repairs. And so I think in hindsight, I wish I would have been a little bit more aggressive as far as like when I was doing my listing consultation to point out, hey, if this is an issue, how are we going to solve this? Because we ended up with a FHA offer and things had to be repaired in order to get loan approval. And so they didn't have the money for that, and we were like finding all types of quotes. We ended up finding somebody who would do the work and then get paid out of the closing proceeds. But that was one where I was like, I don't think I set their expectations good enough. Like, you need to know that you're probably going to have to fix this. So then when it did come back, they were a little shocked as far as that. But then on the flip side, we were just in the buyer's one and it was the same. And I'm like, you have to fix this. And now that you know that the floor is sinking, you have to disclose it legally. So they had to pay $20,000 to Ramjack to raise the house up because it was.
So did they do that before they put it on the market, or
no? So
they waited till an offer came in.
So on the buy side, we were the buyers.
Okay. And
we put an offer in, but we said, I'm pretty sure that this is going to need to be repaired. And once the inspector came out, he said, yes, it does.
Yeah.
So the seller was awesome. He fixed it all, but.
What was the price point of that home?
$445.
All right, so kind of in the mid-range. And here's the lesson. One, you got to be working with your lender in this case. You've got to have a lender who's on their toes, who can help you work through this, because obviously it sounds like the sellers didn't have cash on hand.
Yep.
They might have had equity, but not cash on hand. And your buyers were going minimal amount down. And it's not necessarily FHA is the reason why they're being, you got to realize if someone's typically doing an FHA, they're generally making a lower down payment.
Right.
Right?
Correct.
So
Yes.
even on a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac loan where you're putting 3 or 5% down, they're going to be particular about that. Back in the day, someone was putting 30, 40% down on a house, and there was some sort of cosmetic, or just, the something that was minor, like the fogging of a windows or something like that. They're like, oh, whatever. They're putting 30, 40% down. Drive on. We don't need that fix.
Right.
Now they are more particular
Yes.
on that, even if they are putting 30, 40% down. Mm-hmm. They want some of those things repaired. But I'm a big supporter of the pre-listing inspection.
Yeah.
Have you done any of those? What's your
have
thoughts
not.
on that? Yeah.
I haven't. I think only because it was an added expense for the seller, and I have offered it to them, as well as sometimes I'm like, this is a rare property. We should potentially do an appraisal ahead of time just so you have a more accurate. Mm-hmm. And they're like, I feel like we're good. Let's just test it. And so that worked for the past 3 years. I highly would suggest it this past year when the market has really shifted quite a bit.
Because everyone's telling me it's not what sold 6-9 months ago. It's what sold 6 weeks ago.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like they're looking at only the past 2 months because it is changing so much that you can't look at 6 months ago.
Right. But just having especially a house that's older. Obviously, we'll get into new construction here in a second. Mm-hmm. But a little bit older house, to me, if you do a pre-listing inspection, I don't even know what inspections go for. Well, I'll just say $500 on just an average, to go through and eliminate all those little things.
Right.
Because we don't know what's going to throw the buyer off.
Right.
It could be, the outlet needs to be fixed. Okay, all right, that's pretty simple. But that might be just the reason for them to go, they're not taking care of this house. We should avoid it. You just don't know what's in their mind. Yeah. So by eliminating those things off that inspection report, and obviously if there is a big thing, because we know the big things then can cause a financial teeter-totter back and forth of what they're going to counteroffer, what they want you to pay, to have a peace of mind.
Well, and I think that also goes back to just as far as like home maintenance stuff. Don't defer it all. As I walk through my house, I'm like, gosh, I need to fix that. I need to fix that. Like if a buyer walked through, those would be things that bother them, and I just am used to it.
Yeah.
So like don't defer those things.
We'll let it go until it breaks.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. And then when you try to sell, you're like, dang, I have all these things, and now I've made my house beautiful. Why didn't I live in it like this?
Right.
Right. Should have
Good
painted
point.
and redone these floors a long time ago.
What's your attitude? What would you say your percentage of new construction that you're selling right now over the last few years anyway?
I'm probably at 30-40% new construction.
Yeah. What's your position on having an inspector?
100%. I can't stress it enough for new construction.
Yeah.
If you are starting at the very beginning from the ground up, I usually get somebody who does the pre-slab, then they do the pre-drywall, and then the pre-closing. There's like a package of 3 that you can do. And then they also come back at the 11-month one because it just gets rid of so many headaches early on. Like I had one where there was an extra pipe inside the plumbing, and they moved in, and 2 weeks later the toilets and the plumbing was coming out, and we're like, what is happening? We had an inspector though, and I guess it was so far down that until they used the toilet enough, then it they had to drill into the slab. They had to go and cut this pipe. I mean, it was crazy. And I'm like, had we started a little bit earlier.
There was a pipe within the pipe?
Yes.
So someone was transporting the pipes or whatever, put one pipe into a bigger pipe, and they never realized it was in there.
They did not take it out when they did it. So I'm like, man, if we would have had that pre-slab, maybe he would have found that ahead of time.
So to those out there listening right now, and maybe we cut this as a reel. Hopefully this comes out good. We cut this as a reel. The cutting into the slab. That doesn't make you feel good.
Correct.
That's like taking a car that's 6 months old and having to take the engine apart.
Yes.
I mean, you don't feel good about that.
Right.
The inconvenience of that bathroom being torn up, who knows, a bedroom, or even just a ditch in your front yard for a few days while they're doing this repair.
Right.
And and then having people around your house when you got to go to work and that sort of thing. It's those are all just feelings right there. But right there, the value of that, the inspection. Obviously, if they caught it, you wouldn't know that you would ever have pain, right?
Right. Exactly. Yes.
But you've seen the pain,
Yes.
so you can express that to your buyers.
Yes.
To have that is so valuable.
Yes, 100%. I feel like if they could catch it ahead of time, it's well worth the money to not have the headache down the road.
Yeah, because these track builders they're just. I mean.
Right. And I mean, the superintendent can only do so much when he has 15 houses. So I don't even blame them. I'm like, they're outsourcing so many different trades at the same time that they can't physically be watching. So you're really just getting whoever shows up that day. And you need somebody who's qualified to go and inspect to make sure they do their job properly.
It's almost like, you think of that, the superintendent of the neighborhood, that's for, obviously for the builder. He's the only one besides the salespeople that are employed by the builder.
Correct.
The others are all contractors that, hopefully they do regular work. They're working for the builder all the time. That's their goal. They would love, have that thing. But to me, I was just thinking, obviously with our government closing, I keep talking about air traffic controllers and all that stuff. That superintendent's like an air traffic controller.
Yep.
He's got all these different contractors coming in all the time from all different directions. And he cannot be out there to make sure. I've heard one where the plumbing for the toilet coming through the slab was too close to the tub.
Okay.
So you could not, when they actually go and put everything down, you couldn't, So what do they have to do? They go into the slab and move that pipe over. Yeah. And again, you're going into the slab again, another opportunity for, future issues that you might not see for 4, 5, 10 years.
Correct.
Yeah, type of thing. Yeah.
Well, and they don't care except for their own trade. So it's like the painter comes in and they did their job, and then they drip paint on your cabinets, and now the cabinets are dirty, and then I'm like, oh gosh, we all only care about ourselves here.
Right.
Which is why I would suggest having a realtor so much for new construction. I think a lot of people are like, oh, it's fine, what could go wrong? When in reality, I think you need it almost more for new construction than resale, because I am out there. And I have some clients who call me the DBG, the designated bad guy. So like, we want to stay in their good graces, but Jamie, this is not acceptable. And I'll go out there and I'm like, no, we're not going to buy a $900,000 home where this is, having this issue.
Well, I remember back in 2020, going into 21 and pretty much through 21, the builders didn't want to have anything to do with a real estate agent. Now they're out there begging you, bring people over, we're going to give you bonus, type attitude. But you're 100% right. We just talked about the inspector, but really the real estate agent comes in first there. Right. And you need to be the designated bad guy. You need to be the one that's going to go to the builder and say, no, you are going to repaint that wall.
Right.
Because everyone knows you go to new construction, those painters went there and you really start to look at it and you can actually see the drywall because there's barely a coat of paint on that wall.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
And so there comes a quality control standard, and and if you've got a really good agent that goes around with their blue tape.
Yes.
I saw some agents the other day. I thought it was great. They were blue taping before their customer actually showed up to do the walkthrough.
Yep.
So that I think is important because it takes a lot of pressure off the buyer themselves that you're going to go in there and you're going to see a bunch of stuff, and then they can come in and if they see something, we can add to it. Right. But it's not all on them.
Right.
Yeah.
And usually we have a great relationship with the superintendent, so if I pop by, I'm like, hey, this is wrong. And don't even let the seller or the buyers know sometimes. Like they fixed it, and then I will tell them, hey, I saw this already. He already prepared it. Look at how good that is.
Yes.
To take them out of that, because it is stressful for them to be like, wait, we're spending all this money, and this is breaking, or that wasn't done right.
Well, like everyone has this limit, whether, if you're kind of critiquing someone and they did 10 things bad and you're like, there's 10 things here, I'll just tell them about 3, that way I don't upset them too much. If I tell them 10, they'll blow out.
Right.
Type of thing.
Yeah.
So, but regularly stopping by, do you regularly stop by your new constructions that
Yes.
just periodically going by? Hey, I'm going to go in there and see what's going on.
I usually go by every week.
Yeah.
I mean, unless it's super far away, then I would probably go every other. But I had one that was 5 minutes away, and I would drive by it several times a week.
Yeah.
Be good friends with them. How are you? Make sure everything's good.
Well, it goes to your attention to detail. And then obviously, as soon as you leave there, you're calling or messaging your customer saying, hey, I stopped by the house. I noticed they were here. Looks like tomorrow they're going to do this or whatever.
Yes.
And it lets them know you're on top of it. Because I think that's the attitude, and I think you'd agree with it, the attitude that they don't need an agent is they don't know that you would be doing that.
Correct.
And a lot of agents don't do that.
Right.
Therefore, what I saw when I was with the large builder, I felt a lot of times the agent was almost dropping them off there, like they were dropping, at the daycare center. They were dropping their customers off at the model, and then just figured the site agent and everything, it's all handled by the builder. I'll just step back over here and hey, we'll close in 6 months when the house is done. And
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's not me.
Well, yeah.
We are in it together all the time.
Well, that's the importance of clients out there doing their due diligence on agents that are going. They should be asking, we're going to look at new
Right.
construction. What are you going to do? They should ask you, what are you going to do for me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think all buyers and obviously sellers should interview several agents. Like, what is your standard protocol? What do you do here? And see what is your best fit, because not everybody works well together. So
Right. Well, it gives the opportunity. The agents shouldn't take it they should take it as a buying sign, actually, when they start asking you questions.
yeah,
Hey, well, we're going to buy a new construction home. What are you going to do during the 6-month build time?
right.
You're going to be stopping by. You're going to be obviously review the plans.
Right.
I know an agent dearly that had a customer who was buying one of the last houses in the subdivision and wanted the house turned so it was facing the retention pond versus his neighbor.
Yep.
And they built the house the wrong way, so all the windows are facing the neighbor. The garage was on the side of the retention pond, and they got out of the deal. But it took that agent fighting with the builder, saying, "Dude, you guys screwed up."
Right. you do.
And because the guys in the office, they're not out there in the subdivision; they're just looking at the plans and
Correct.
stamping.
Yep.
Yeah. So
We had one where the AC had to be on the back, and we were building a pool through the builder. I'm like, you're not gonna have AC right there on the patio, like overlooking
right,
the
the
pool.
noise
They're
and
like, we don't have room for it on this side. I'm like, we are not buying this house unless you move it to the side. So figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a month and a half of going to the county to get approval and not, and changing this. And we got it to the side though.
Yeah.
They're like, I didn't even think about that. I'm like, yeah, we would have been halfway in. Everything would have been done. And when they put in the pavers, we would have said, oh no, we have an AC sitting right here next to our hot tub. So
that's important.
correct.
Yeah, that will
So
if
plans are huge.
whether they might not bother the buyer that's bought it.
Yeah.
If they actually accept it, that I know my wife, if we went out there and we were looking at that house as a resale,
Yeah.
and we were looking at a house and they go, oh yeah, it's a great pool, but the air conditioner's right here, we're out.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it devalued the home there. Buyers versus sellers. Where are you at approximately? Is you about 50-50 or were you?
I'm probably more like 60-40, a little bit heavier on listings.
Yeah, especially right now. Because inventory go, everyone seems to be, at least the top agents are leaning more, obviously, towards listings. You're getting regular listing appointments.
Yeah.
What's your attitude right now going in and speaking to them? Someone listing their home right now, with inventory still, it seems there was hints it was going down, but then I'm hearing stories, no, it's not. I think really good homes in the right location, the right neighborhood sell quickly, priced right, of course.
Yes.
Everything's got to be priced right. We know we can leave that as
Say,
common denominator.
That is the common denominator. Are you listening to my suggestions
Right.
as far as price goes?
What's that conversation like right now with today's business in setting expectations for the seller? How are you breaking that down with them?
I think it's always a balancing act of like time versus money. You know, if you need to sell it immediately because your job's being transferred, then we obviously need to go more aggressive on the pricing to get it sold quickly. Versus if you're okay to sit and wait, we can try at a little bit of a higher price point. I do think it's important to price properly, though. If you shoot for the moon and then it just sits and sits and sits, and you slowly but surely drop it. I don't think that people are even going to take a look at it once it's sat on the market for too long. So as far as my listing, consultation, and appointments go, I really focus more on the marketing, professional photography, videography. Like, those are the things that sell the property, because if they're not going to even look at it because the photos aren't great or the videos aren't great, you're missing out on so many people. So I always make sure that we have, not me, I can't do it, professionals who come in and do all of those things to stage your property. I love staging. If it's vacant, I think it sells a home 10 times faster.
Do you agree with the statistic that they actually probably get a little bit more?
Yes.
It offsets the cost of any staging.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had one in February, and this lady wanted to go a little higher, but she didn't want to pay for the staging. I'm like, if we're going at this price point, we have to stage it. There's no way somebody's going to walk in and pay this. And so I was like, I will pay for the staging if we want to go this high. And it sold in 7 days. I'm like, yes, it was totally the staging. The next week, 3 more in our neighborhood hit the market, and they're still on the market. I'm like, it's crazy how quickly like this one sold versus the others, and they're way less price per square footage. So
it's amazing how many people don't. I mean, I think, the top agents, obviously I'm sitting here with always producers, but for someone getting started in the business and they're looking at it, they may not be willing to come out of the pocket, or, how would you suggest they kind of, they know you need staging, but how would you strategize with a seller? Maybe do you raise the price up $4,000 or $5,000 more to offset the cost of the staging? I don't know. I'm just coming out. How do you strategize? Because you made it easy for the seller. Yeah. You said, "Hey, I'll pay for the," and then obviously it was great because you were able to return the furniture in 7 days. Right. Where right now people are like, well, if I stage it and then it sits here for 3 months, I got to pay for staging for 3 months. Right. How do you rationalize that? How would you approach a seller in that negotiation?
Well, I think it's important if they're going to listen to my suggestions as like the trusted professional. So if they wanted to come in way too high and I knew at this price it's never going to sell anyways, then I would probably be a little less likely to say, let's stage it for 4 months, So I have always suggested that they do it if possible, depending on their financial scenarios. I always say you sometimes have to spend money to make money. And when I got into real estate, my husband was like, you're my best investment. And so here is a large sum of money, and you just go do whatever you need to just get a website, start all the things, and do it right versus doing it, not fully and not getting great results. So in that instance, I'm like, if you're not willing to do it, I feel like that's what's going to sell. So I'm going to spend that money in order to make this successful.
Right.
If you are pricing it appropriately and you think the home will appraise, I think you could totally raise it up just a little bit just to cover those costs. But I think the most important part of staging is for the photos and video in like that first month. Hopefully it would sell within then and you could remove the furniture.
Do you imagine you have fully staged an entire house versus just maybe some key rooms?
So the only ones that I sometimes do not would just be like additional bedrooms, because you can kind of get an idea. Like this one was a 5-bedroom house, so we did the master, we did a guest, and then all the common areas, the patio. But there was 2 rooms that we didn't. Right. It didn't seem to bother anybody.
But I think you make a good point from the standpoint of the pictures.
Yes.
And with technology and obviously out there, because I imagine when you have a buyer and you're going, hey, based on what you're telling me, I would suggest we go look at these houses. You're sending them the link for them to look at them before you even go out there.
Correct.
And so that first impression, when they go, ooh, wow, yeah, let's go look at that house, or no, I don't want to. It could be due to how it's staged.
100%, yes.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like buyers don't have great vision to look beyond like older furniture or brown trim, and I'm like, you can paint that trim white and it would be beautiful.
It's not your couch.
It's like, no, I don't like that. I'm like, there's so many things you could do. Don't say no,
Right.
Because the bones are great, but it really is so many people, and with the inventory so high, they can be choosy. So it's like, no, I don't like that. I'm not even going to look.
Right. Right. You got to dress it up. All right.
Correct.
As I told you pre-show, I got these. These are ask ChatGPT to give me questions that are trending questions, whether it's buyer, seller, or realtor to realtor type questions that are out there right now. And we'll just kind of rattle them off here a little bit. Maybe create some good trending reels here. With more housing inventory showing up in demand cooling in some areas, how should sellers in Northeast Florida adjust their pricing and marketing strategy today?
As far as the market goes, it has definitely been a little bit more difficult to sell homes. So I think looking at your comps from the past 2 months is very important. I think looking at your competition of what's out there is also very important. If there's 20 homes for sale and they're all the exact same floor plan, based off of your time frame, you're going to have to do something different to get your home sold before the other ones. And so I think it's appropriate for the agent to go walk through the other homes to see how yours compares based off of the upgrades and things like that to make sure that you're pricing it right. But it really does come down to price and are there any key features that set yours apart from the other homes?
From a lender side, would you recommend, or when you're having that discussion with the seller, to build in some concessions? Obviously, you got to figure out the real estate commissions and that sort of thing. That's obvious, but the seller incentives to build in to be prepared to pay maybe some seller costs. Now, maybe they end up not asking for it. So if they don't ask for a lower price, but generally if they're not asking for it, they ask for $5,000 or $10,000 less than what you're asking just to ask you that, right?
Yes.
So you have that buffer in there, but also to put one out there for the loan officers out there, the agents who get with the loan officers. There's ways they can structure in there too to put a little, maybe a little lender incentive, pay for the appraisal, or if it's a larger purchase, or there, several thousands of dollars to help out in closing costs or whatever, it may be, to get those things, put those ducks in a row so you have them when you're actually, maybe you hold those cards, or maybe you put those cards on the table, say, hey, they're willing to pay 3% towards closing cost, and the preferred lender is willing to give you $1,500 or whatever. Right.
So in order to build that in, I think it really depends on what you think the home will appraise for. Because I don't want them to price it super high then to cover those costs and then it not appraise. So it really is a balancing act. And what we have done before is like on a separate document, when people would go see it, I would share this document to say, hey, we're going to give you $5,000 to $10,000 towards your rate buy down. Let me show you why it's better to take this for your rate buy down versus just closing costs. Because if you put this here, it's going to change your monthly by $300 or $400 versus $50 by taking $10,000 off of the purchase price.
Right.
And I think like seeing that visual is like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And it also depends on where rates are, but like when rates were higher, that was one of my number one things we would suggest, like buy the rate down and it will save you so much versus $10,000.
Well, and anyone sitting out there with a house sitting right now, you call your lender. We have a product here to throw a little bit about a Planet, a little commercial, but where we will actually take the contingency out of the picture. We will make an offer on their home and then still give that agent, even after they moved into the new home, because now this home is taken out of the debt ratios, so now they can buy the new home. We will still give the agent another 120 days to sell that home.
Oh, that's
we don't want the home.
nice.
If they end up 120 days go by, 130 days, and it's not, then we will buy it for that, percentage of the dollar there, not the offer they want, but it will still give. If they think they can get rid of it in the next 4 months, it can help them. I just helped out a great agent here, Wendy, and actually, what ended up happening, it allowed her to get the offer in.
Yep.
Got it accepted. They had a scheduled closing date. We talked to the agent down where they were in South Florida, and he felt, oh yeah, for sure, I can get this sold in 120 days. I'll get it done. About not even, I think it was probably about 10 days. Well, no, it was actually probably closer to about 3 weeks before the actual closing date on the home here in town. They got a cash offer.
Oh,
and
nice.
so they ended up actually selling it. And then 2 days later, they closed on the home here. But allowed Wendy to get the sale versus they were going to go rent.
Yes.
So,
That's awesome to have as a buyer if you have to sell. Because a lot of sellers are like, no, I don't want to wait around. It's taking me this long to sell my house. I don't want to wait 2-3 months for you to sell yours
Mm-hmm.
before. And if it doesn't, then I'm back to square one on the market in 3 months. That's a lot of wasted time.
And there is bridge loan products out there that are available that are a little friendlier that we can help bridge the gap for those who needed the down payment for that other house too. So we do have that, assuming the other house had some equity in it.
Yes.
All right. For buyers facing higher mortgage rates, what creative financing or offer strategies are you advising so they can move forward confidently? We kind of actually just talked about that a little bit.
I think the rate buy down is huge. 'Cause
Yeah.
most of the people care about their monthly.
At least putting it out from a seller standpoint to advertise. Would you advertise that from a seller standpoint that we're willing to put that out there? They might not take it. They might, like I said, they might choose to put it towards closing costs if that's what their attitude is. To me, if someone's got an FHA loan or VA loan, they can streamline down if they think the rates are going to be, in 6 months. But if the rate buy down gives them that extra time until the rates drop, and then they want to lock in, as low as they think they can get it for long term.
Especially as a seller, that allows you to compete with the new construction.
Mm-hmm.
Because so many of these companies, we're offering this rate because they bought so many forever ago. And so a lot of buyers I have seen, well, I like that 4.99, so I'm just going to go here because I can get a lot more house for the same monthly mortgage as resale. And I'm like, yeah, but you could still get this. You just need to ask the seller to help you out to get your rate to that.
Well, the advantage the builders have in that area is they are buying blocks of money now, and then buying down from that. So now they got to move. Here's the thing. It's like a car dealership at the end of the month. They have to get that money on the street in a period of time.
Got it.
So if you catch them when they're at the end of that, hey, this $10 million block of money that we've got at this lower investor's rate, and we need to get a house closed before the end of the month, for example, they're going to be highly incentivized to do that, which I've learned on jumbo loans the same way. There's only a handful of companies that do jumbo loans. Chase is one of them. There's a few others that service jumbo loans. The same thing. They have that block of money. Yeah. And as it gets towards the end of that period of time where they need to fill that block of money with those, putting the cash on the street and the mortgage note in there, they will incentivize by lowering the rate. So lowering the price of something, it hopefully will sell, right? Yep.
Sure.
Let's see. What are you seeing the most valuable home features or upgrades in 2025 that deliver the biggest return for sellers, especially here locally?
I think pools are still it. When you look at a neighborhood and there's 10 of the exact same floor plans and one has a pool, it's usually the one that goes the quickest.
Right.
I had a neighbor who was on the fence about doing a pool, and he made it beautiful and did extended the roof, whole outdoor kitchen, fireplace, whatever. And he's like, I don't know. I'm like, I'm telling you that when you sell this, people are going to like the outdoor backyard space so much that you will probably not get all of your money back, but that is something that will sell this house over one without.
And would you agree? Well, here in Florida, I think we sell lifestyle too.
Yes.
And hopefully you're going to enjoy that backyard.
Correct.
But now that it's there, even if it has to be cleaned up, maybe a new grill put in before the new buyers buy it, it's still there.
Yes.
And you enjoyed it for that period of time. What was the value of that while you were here? And then hopefully you'll get most of your money back, but to get a dollar for dollar return, not likely, but like you said, it'll sell quicker.
It's definitely the outdoor, the yard space. I think a lot of people are wanting more. Like, you can change anything in a home, but you can't change your location. So if you have a bad lot, I'm like, you're backing up to somebody and it's like a fishbowl here. We're going to have to come down on the price in order to sell this, because this other one, where you want to be priced, has a beautiful, preserve to Lakeview. It's not the same.
Since you've lived in St. Johns County most of your life, and you remember when some of these 4-lane roads were dirt roads.
Yes.
Now we got this expressway coming in.
We do.
Right? Some agents won't, I know, just again, because they're not confident, they don't have the control, be upfront with their customers saying, hey, because the customer doesn't know. Hey, just want to let you know there's going to be a freeway going through here. Or researching who owns the lot that's, because many of these, how many stories have you heard where this is a preserve they told us no one else would build, and all of a sudden 4 years later they're clearing the trees out for either another neighborhood or Walmart, for crying out loud.
100%. I tell every single person, if there's a tree behind you, it could be cut down. Even if it's considered conservation, they could rezone it. It could be cut down. So are you sure that this would be okay, kind of a thing? Like, is there any space? Because even like on Roberts Road, some of these, 2-acre single plots are now trying to be neighborhoods. And you're like, wait, you could fit 5 houses in there, so they're going to try and do it. And you thought it was woods.
Yeah.
So yes, I live on the St. Johns County property appraiser and look at behind and who owns that and what are the chances and is there any development? Like the helo surrounds my entire neighborhood.
And for the agents that are listening, it's important. And even reach out to Jamie and ask her what she's doing if you don't know how to find out this information. But when you give the buyer that information, I think you're strengthening the relationship. That, hold on, this person's forward looking, as you mentioned in your, what's the phrase, faith, family, and your future. Right. You're looking into the future going, hey, when you go to resell it, because hopefully you're going to call me, right. I don't want to have to resell it now, and now there's a Walmart back there.
Exactly,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And say, how come you didn't tell me this?
Right.
Like, I want to lay my head on the pillow knowing that I did everything to the best of my ability. I disclosed everything as if it was my sister, behind the house, and I just want to make sure it's perfect for you.
Yep.
So I highly suggest doing your due diligence on what could potentially be behind.
Given uncertainty around home value trends, how do you help clients decide whether to wait, buy now, or sell now, especially when the local, economic, and regional factors differ?
I think it's all buyer specific. I've had some that have kind of put things on hold because their job uncertainty was a little iffy there for a little bit this summer. But I think if you're wanting to stay here and you feel comfortable and like you are not concerned about your jobs changing or anything financially, I say go ahead and buy if it's the right home.
Yeah. I
don't know that rates are going to change drastically in the next couple years. So if you're renting already, that's just money you're giving away for nothing.
Right.
I think as a whole, if you can stay for the long haul, there's going to be equity in your home.
Are you in the rents aren't getting? It's not like renting is that much cheaper.
No, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm like, gosh, you're paying $2,800 a month,
right?
To just give away, and that's when like you're spending $30,000 a year.
I always like that phrase. They always say, "When's the best time to buy a home?" And it's 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. So get in your 2 years ago now. I mean, if you don't have, you got to get in because, like you said, the rent you're just paying that other person's mortgage or that apartment complex's note that they've got on theirs and their employees. You might as well just be putting that towards your equity of your house. Right. I don't think we foresee a devaluing of homes in any great way. We may go stagnant, which I think is where we're kind of in that period. Mm-hmm. We can go in a stagnant situation, but you're paying down the equity, paying down that note that if you sell 10, 15 years now, if you're going to start a family, you're likely in St. Johns County. I mean, we've been in our house 16 years now.
Yep.
We had our kids there, and we have I don't know, my wife, I think I told her as soon as the little one, the last one's out, we're ready to go, like downsize and cut loose. Yeah. Go enjoy ourselves. Yes. We don't need a 4,000 square foot house. Don't really need one now.
That's why I think it's also important where you buy. Is there always going to be a demand for St. Johns County? Yes, there is, because the schools are still great, So I don't think that it's a bad decision to move there. I think there are some other areas that you're like, I don't know, that's a great deal now, but it may not pay off long term.
Well, there's no doubt we don't see, as we did in the latter 18, 19, definitely in 2021, the inter-county moves, or even just from Duval. Obviously there's still a lot of people moving from Duval to St. John's. Yeah. But, where people are like, oh, I live in Nocatee, I don't really like it here, I'm going to move out, or vice versa. Right. That kind of thing going on. They're like, oh, let's, because they're sitting on a 3% rate, 3.5%, whatever it may be. And they're going, oh, I'm going to 6.5%. Oh, well, I'll stick it out here for now. Yes. We'll drive to our friend's house.
I have so many friends who are like, well, I didn't want this to be like my forever home, but I can't get out of this rate. It's so good. I would buy a smaller house for the same monthly mortgage. I'm like, we'll be here forever.
Yeah, exactly. I saw a good question here. Oh, here it is. We haven't talked about this at all, and so I don't know what you're doing in this area here, but obviously this is a hot topic. Any of the lunch and learns you guys are going to, or if you're going to, any sort of, conventions, I'm sure at United you guys are talking about, how are you leveraging AI, automation, data-driven tools to generate leads leads, stay ahead of the market. Are you using any of that, even staying in touch with your circle? Because you grew up here, so you have a circle and you have a lot of referrals. Are you using, how are you using your CRM? What are you doing to stay top of mind with a lot of those people?
I'm not as good as I should be, to be honest.
I think a lot of agents could say that. Yeah.
I feel like AI is insane, and there's so many wonderful things for it that I have not implemented yet. But I feel like I use it all the time now, even for like, give me a volleyball drill or help me, to fix this thing at my house. Like, it is insane the amount of things that it can do. So I would like to start implementing it more. I know that there have been some good classes that I've gone to lately. I just have not put it into practice yet. I feel like most of the time I stay in touch more like just through social media with people, and my Facebook and my Instagram. My Instagram is like myself, but also some real estate intermix. So
yeah, I went on there. You do have a
like
mixed,
my own
a potpourri
one.
of real estate and your kids and all that stuff. Yeah.
Right. So like just friends and family and things like that who want to see what's happening in my regular life also see, and I have had so many transactions where it was like, I forgot that you were, and I just saw you posted something, and we're going to sell soon, so can you help us, kind of a thing. So I think intermixing that has been really helpful.
Well, it's definitely, and it's actually, I wouldn't say it's probably simple, but it can be an expense. But if that's how you're keeping, if you're using social media over, say, your CRM, which can post on your social media too,
right?
I mean, if you want to put that on auto drive, I mean, there's certainly, you throw it some material and say, post it out over the next month, and you can go on, for the next 30 days before you need to fill it up with some new content to go out the next 30 days. So AI can help. AI is doing that and automating it.
Yeah. I have seen some stuff where it's like AI does the contacts with each of them, and I don't want to lose like the authenticity. And that's where I think I struggle. Like, I don't want it to be where you gotta message from me that says something and then they respond. I'm like, I don't even send that, and it's kind of brought up after the fact when I run into them in public. Right. So I still like the good old days where it's me reaching out and you kind of connecting to make it more authentic and more relationship based than like.
I will say this because I use it for a lot of different things, like you were mentioning.
Yeah.
How do you fix this? I got a error message in the car, or it's making this noise. What could it be? What you can ask it all sorts of stuff.
Right.
I would highly recommend everyone goes and puts their vehicle in there, tells it what year, how many miles, and everything, and what issues you may have coming up, because you'd be amazed how many of these vehicles have the same issue within 10,000 miles of each other.
Wow.
Right. So I've used it for that. I passed a small kidney stone a month or so ago.
Oh, no.
I didn't know what it was. I got this sharp pain in my back, and I'm like, what is it? I started talking to ChatGPT. After a few hours, it was like, hey, you should go to the ER.
Yeah.
So long story short, went to the doctor. That's what it was. But you can talk to it like that, like you're talking to your friend, and it's compiling all this information all from all over. But from the show standpoint, to go back to like making kind of personal messages for your people, the more you use it, the more it becomes you. Okay. If you want to write more of it and then say, hey, revise this and change the tone or whatever, like if you want to if you're really pissed off at someone,
I have used it for an email to a
change the tone of this.
Like, here are the 10 things that need to be fixed, and I was not being super kind. Make it a little more polite and professional.
It's beautiful at that.
It was. My buyer wrote back and they're like, that was a great email. Thank you so much.
Yes. Yeah.
Softened it a little for me.
I've done it. I've told it on the show before. I need an exception. Oop, did I knock this camera? Did I kick the camera there? I need an exception from an underwriter on a deal. And so I went into ChatGPT and I said, hey, I need an email. It's going to go to an underwriter. And here's the situation. Here are the compensating factors. So it wrote the nice email.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, wow, this is a great email.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
that's really
and I did have a letter not too long ago that I had to write, and I toned it down enough on mine, but it toned it down a little more.
Right.
And because I told it, hey, I need this, not to come across this way, and so it did, and went in there and did its politically correct things, and softened the tone. So it's there. And again, anyone wants to know about using the blogging and stuff we were talking about earlier. I feed I take the transcript from this show. And so it's hearing you talking, it's hearing me talking, it's going back and it's going to pull the finer points out and create a blog and talk, just like someone wrote an article about. So it's actually getting it straight from us. But since I've done it so often now, and now I've got it writing more from my position, from my tone, as if I'm actually writing the full thing, I just give it some, it asks me questions now. I got it because I created a GPT.
Yeah.
So now when I say create blog, it asks me a series of questions about whoever we're writing about, and then I go and answer them. And one of those questions is, "What did you get from having the interview with Jamie? What did you think about Jamie or whatever?" And I go in there and add my little 2 cents in, and it creates a nice blog for everyone to read about. And then obviously, the call to action is they click on and listen to the whole episode because now they're intrigued by that blog. So yeah.
All right, I'm gonna look into it more. You convinced
blog
me.
more. We're gonna have
more.
November 13th. We're gonna have a webinar on it, how to leverage. And that was a tip that I got from my friend that's going to do the webinar. Was if you're going to create a GPT to write blogs, that you're putting in some basic information. It comes out and asks you some questions. Like one of the things now, because we're trying to get picked up by AI, right? So now one of the tips he gave us was, what are the frequently asked questions that people are asking online, like the ones I'm reading here?
Right.
So if you got, what are buyers in St. Johns County? What are they asking online? What are they Google? What are they searching online? Right. Yes. And those questions. So I'm going to put those at the bottom of the blog. Frequently asked questions. And so hopefully AI, because AI is looking for a match to match.
Yes.
They're asking about Julington Creek, living by the pool, or whatever.
Right.
Or pool houses in Julington Creek.
Yes.
It's gonna find those things there. Yeah.
That's cool.
All right. Let's see. Let's go. We'll go one more here. Okay. Oh, this is a great one. It's actually the one right to number 10 here. It's the last one. Looking ahead for 26 and beyond, what local market factor, insurance costs, climate risk, regulatory change keeps you up at night, and how are you preparing your business to adapt?
Keeps me up at night.
I was told at a network lunch outing last week that everyone, if you have not shopped your auto and home insurance in the last pretty much in the last year, you need to be doing that because they've made some changes and the rates have come down. So if your auto is renewing soon or your homeowner's insurance, make sure you shop it. Do not just accept what you get.
Funny, because mine went up. It literally renewed on October 1st, and I'm like, what
yeah.
in the world? So my broker, he did go shop it and got it back. But I'm like, what is happening here? It's almost like they give you a deal to get in at the very beginning, and then after they have you for a year, it's like, oh, now we're going to jump it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there might be some of that, and also I think they're like, how can I get a little bit more?
Correct.
Are they not going to call me out and shop it?
Right.
Right. Which, to me, if I'm an insurance agent and I'm trying to get started right now in Florida, and I want to get credibility and respect, I'm shopping everybody's policy.
Yes.
Right now because I do want to lock them in, or at least let them know, hey, I shopped everything. You still have the best deal.
Yeah.
Continue on. Then no one even questions it, and you have a great credibility that you're carrying.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know if there's something that keeps me up at night. Really, I feel like it'll just turn out how it's supposed to, and we'll just work our way through it. I mean,
right.
COVID was crazy, and people figured it out, and that was like the highlight of real estate, and things were selling, and it was so much fun. And then it kind of slowed down a little, and this summer was kind of weird. Usually I feel like that's the peak time, but really it was like January to March was great, and I think it started to pick back up again from September on. So things are shifting, and I just kind of go with the flow and do my best to represent my clients through it.
I think it was Jared James. He came down and talked at the RE Bar Camp in January. And if you go to Jared James, follow him on LinkedIn. He's on Instagram. He does have his own podcast, but he does come out with he finds some articles that he'll talk about, but he was making a statement. I don't know. I probably saw it this past weekend in his reel, and just talking about, we've actually come through one of the worst real estate times obviously he's talking from a national basis. He's not local here. From the number of home sales and so forth being way down. And obviously someone like yourself who's delivering great service, you're staying in touch, your sphere trusts you, likes you, and therefore you're getting referrals in business through it. If you're another agent who might be just getting leads right now, and if you're treading water, basically what Jared's basically saying, it can only get better. Yeah. But continue to do the things that you need to do, obviously, on a daily basis, following up with your past clients, letting whether it's using social media. I personally would recommend right now is the time for you to get like your website. You have jamiemclaughlin.org. If you don't have marysmith.com or marysmithrealtor.com, you need to be going on GoDaddy or wherever you want to search and see if that domain's available. Right. Because the search in the future is going to be natural language. Google's doing that. We talked about that at the beginning. 80% of the Google searches they're not clicking on a link. They're actually just reading the AI answer. Right. And going with it. Right. And there was some stat, too, that you're 4 times more likely that if AI recommends you, that they're going to do business with you. Oh, interesting. Than just clicking on the link. And one of the articles that were out recently, and actually I think it was Jared James that mentioned this. Actually, no, it was my friend Jim that actually sent me the article. A lot of the news sources were mad at Google because their clicks are way down. And it's because people are Googling or going to ChatGPT and putting in their question about whatever the news situation is, and they're reading the AI answer, and they're stopping right there. Yeah. They're not clicking on Fox News or CNN or the newspaper or whatever to read the articles. Yeah. So that's where it's coming from. So how do you get in there as a real estate agent? Get your website up, start blogging, and start filling it with the most hyper-local, most current information as narrowed down to that neighborhood that you can. Yeah.
And I think if you're a new agent, consistency is key. Mm-hmm. Like I do a lot for my neighborhood. I do the Easter egg hunt that I sponsor, and at Christmas we have like a horse-drawn carriage that comes out, and Santa comes, and I get a professional photographer, and so
that's a good one right there. I like that.
So they come and they know me, and I, when somebody's like, "Oh, we moved here 2 years ago from New Jersey, and we don't actually love it, but I don't know anybody here. We just came because of COVID." I'm like, "Call me," and it has been, the ROI has been insane from it, just by like doing things for the community. Or I do a little mailer for our neighborhood who owns their own companies. Last month I did one for an engraving, and I'm like, here's a coupon, I'll pay for it. I market it to the whole neighborhood just to support our neighbor.
Because years ago, and I think Kelly still does it, hopefully she does, Kelly Bello, she's the one who led me to the idea of the photo shoot. Yeah. Christmas time. Yes. And she rented out a space and invited all her past clients to come in with their kids and professional photo. Yep. So the professional photographer say, "Hey, I need you for 5 hours on Saturday." They'll just give you an hourly rate. Yep. Take all the pictures, and I'm sure that they'll send it out to the people. And then of course, if they want upgrades or reprints or something like that, obviously they can make more money off of that in that situation.
And she's actually a neighbor, and so I'm like, and since you loved her, use her. And she has a bunch of neighbors who use her now for all of their photos. Yeah,
so. That is such a easy. Yep. It's that time of the year where everyone's trying to get their family photos so they can send out on the Christmas card. So, where you often schedule it like in November? When do you do to do your Christmas shoot?
Yeah, it's already scheduled for December 12th.
December 12th.
And I mark it through our Facebook neighborhood page, and I say, you're invited. I get a couple people to help sponsor just to offset some of the costs, but I pretty much cover it. And that goes back to you have to spend money to make money. And that has worked wonderful, supporting the community and giving that to them.
Easy. You probably love to decorate. Yes. Make the setting. Yep. Put the chair there. Hire someone to be Santa.
Yes, Santa Ken. He's the best. He's hysterical. He's so funny. Yeah.
Very simple. Very simple. Someone was asking about an ice cream truck the other day online. I think it was just yesterday, actually. Who knows an ice cream truck? I like the Santa thing. It's a lot easier. Yes. And then if you want to serve ice cream on the side, someone can someone can sponsor that.
When we have so many kids in our neighborhood and nobody wants to go stand in line at the mall.
Yeah.
So I'm like, save it, come here and stand over here.
You made me think, is like in our neighborhood, we have the community will have its winter fest or whatever they call it,
Right.
and they'll have Santa in there, but it's not done with the care, I'm sure, you to the level you do.
Yeah.
And truly professional photos where they're probably given a moment of time
Yes.
to actually get several shots, get the kids by themselves, that kind of
Yes.
thing going on there.
Yeah.
So they truly have a memoir. Is that the right memoir? Where they're sending out that picture to
Yes.
their friends and family at
Right.
Christmas time. 100%. Anything like that?
I don't think so. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you. I'm going to ask you, this is the toughest question here. Ray, we'll finish with
ready.
this one. You ready?
Ready.
Why should someone use Jamie McLaughlin for her being their real estate agent, whether they're buying or selling?
Because with me, you will have communication, you will have trust, you will have care, and I really do look at it as a relationship and not a transaction. I want to treat you as if you're my family. I want to make sure that I go over every hill and through every swamp just to make sure that the transaction is smooth and that you're happy. And I mean, this is a huge milestone when people are buying or selling, and I just feel blessed that I get to be a part of it and that so many friends and family and referrals just trust me to guide them and teach them and coach them through it all.
Excellent. I'm gonna throw this sub question to you,
Okay.
because we know we have these buyers and sellers that are like this. That obviously will resonate with a lot of people, what you just said.
Yeah.
But then there's always that person that wants what they think is a deal.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I call it stepping over a quarter to pick up a nickel.
Yeah.
Because in the end, they'll want that person that you just described or
Right.
yourself. That doesn't mean you're not a tough negotiator. That doesn't mean you're not looking. You are looking at the whole transaction, the follow-up, the attention to detail, all the things that you mentioned right there could save them thousands of dollars.
Right.
Where they think it's just, get my offer and get my offer accepted at this price point, and I save myself $10,000. Well, no, you probably had an agent probably said, okay, if that's what you want. Screw you, your roof sucks and your floor's sagging, but we won't talk about that. We'll just get you that number. And all of a sudden they end up spending $20,000 on stuff they missed because they didn't get the right inspector there. They went with the cheapest person, not the one you recommended,
Yes.
and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I for sure have seen that and experienced that. And ultimately, I feel like if I'm not the right fit and my style and the things that I provide you don't feel like are valuable, then we're just not meant to be.
Right.
You know, I'm blessed to not have to go and take every lead and everything under the sun. I also want to pour into my family and into my community and other things. So I am able to kind of pick and choose. I have done a couple.
Have you fired a client yet?
No, but one time we had to go actually move them out because they decided they didn't want to sell anymore and said, we're not leaving. So my husband
And they were under
I
contract
thought,
in-
Oh, we were closing. And they're like, we don't want to. And I'm like, well, you actually
no.
have to leave. Sorry. But I have taken two that were not mine that somebody else struggled selling. And so it was like, can you take this over, Jamie? Because, I am kind and sweet and loving, but I also am a negotiator.
Was that a situation where
structure
the ones that didn't want to move, like an older couple, like they just never got the packing and this, or was this someone who just?
No, they had a family and were going to move to Texas and then decided after they were under contract, maybe they don't want to move anymore.
Oh yeah, I've heard some
Changed
stories on
their
some of
mind,
those.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Did you get lawyers involved in that one?
they ended up leaving. I'm like, if not, they can sue you if you don't get out.
Yeah.
Everybody has signed. It was a treat. But, overall, I want to form a relationship with the customer. So if you don't like me or my style or my beliefs or things like that, then I'm sure there's somebody else that's a perfect fit for you, but it's not me. And I'm not going to necessarily give you the best price because I see value in the things that I do in my time as well and what I can offer. So
No, don't step over a quarter to pick up a nickel.
Yes.
Don't think the grass is not always greener on the other side.
100%. And those are kind of fun too to see where they interview and went with somebody else who was a lower compensation or whatever, and then it sat for like 6 months, and they sold it for less than I would have told them. I had one where they're like, what would you price it for? And I'm like, $625, and they started at $700 and they sold it for $600. I'm like, I told you, if you would have started at
$625, they would have had showings and probably would have gotten $635 when it actually got there.
Yeah, so there's a little of like,
oh yeah,
listened.
We've all dealt with that one. Jamie, I appreciate you coming on today.
Absolutely.
Great show. And everyone, her information's in the show notes to contact her. I'm sure she'll answer questions to you, tell you about United Real Estate Gallery. And if you're looking to get in the business, to give you some tips on that. And I think, like I said, your business is around referrals and so forth. It's very important to follow up with them. What are you doing? And I imagine you're tweaking that all the time, having your events. So if anyone wants advice on that, to reach out to Jamie through her social media. So Jamie, I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great day.
This may be it for today's episode of Real Estate Excellence, but we both know your pursuit of excellence doesn't stop here. To connect with the best of the best and really take your skills to the next level, join our community by visiting TracyHayesPodcast.com, where you'll meet more like-minded individuals looking to expand their inner circle and their personal experience. That's available at TracyHayesPodcast.com.